You're listening to the Feed Your Wild podcast, a conscious lifestyle show about all things nourishing for your body, mind, and soul. I'm Vanessa Rodriguez, and join me for candid conversations with changemakers, exploring health and wellness, food as medicine, intuition and spirituality, and nature-based practices that will transform your health and feed all parts of your wild self. Hey, welcome back to Feed Your Wild. I'm your host, Vanessa Rodriguez, functional nutritionist, Akashic Soul record reader, and intuitive nourishment guide. And I'm happy that you are here with us today. We have a monthly Akashic Soul Nourishment reading for you. This one is for the month of June 2021. And in this episode, I'm not only going to share this reading, but I was also asked to speak about channeling, the art of communing with divine energy. And this is something that's been coming up a lot lately in conversation around voice and inner voice, because what is channeling, if not connecting in with that inner voice and becoming an instrument, not just for yourself, but for energies and other forms of subtle vibrations that are available to come through. Channeling is not something that I don't think I've ever talked about on the podcast or in any teachings outside of my Akashic record programs and mentorships. And obviously, with these monthly readings, if you tune into them, then you are familiar that Akashic record reading is a form of channeling, and there are many different ways to channel. It's a very natural process. And I was told by my guides and in the Akashic records after I completed our June's reading, I was told it's time to talk about channeling. So I'm assuming that maybe there are some of you that are interested in this, want to hear a little bit more, perhaps share notes, or just hear my perspective on channeling, which is just one perspective, right? And I'm very clear about that. Everything that I share in this podcast that is of my own opinion, I will let you know. And so that's going to be a discussion that's really based off of my personal experience as a channeler and the things that I have learned that are really supportive, and also the things that I have found to be true after working with many folks, other intuitives, training in Akashic record reading, and just being in a community of also other intuitives and channelers. So I hope you enjoy that. Stay tuned to the end after the reading for that topic. And before I get into our reading, I first want to welcome anybody who is new to the podcast or new to the monthly readings. And just to kind of give you a quick primer, if this is your first ride, these are monthly intuitive channelings, readings, when I connect in with the Akashic records of the collective. So I'm very specific to speak to the listeners and anyone listening to this podcast. And you might be wondering, well, how do you know I was going to listen to this? And I didn't. But when we work with the realms of the Akashic records and just the realms beyond our earth existence, we are operating in a place that is beyond time, our linear time, and space. So that space-time continuum. Therefore, even when you look at it quantumly, it is possible to ask for information and guidance that's going to support you who may not have even planned to listen to this episode. Maybe you stumbled upon this podcast and found yourself here. Well, this is for you. There is something in this reading for you. These, again, are intuitively channeled messages. I do this on a monthly basis, and it's really just bringing in specific messages for the month. While these are themed topics and focused in on the specific month that we do the reading in, these are also perennial messages. I mean, they can be taken out of the calendar and really applied and utilized in our life at any point in time. At least that's how I have found them to support me. I never know what's going to come through. I simply open up and receive and trust that there's going to be something there that's supportive for you. If you want to learn more about Akashic Records and what they are, what am I even talking about, I have a whole episode on Akashic Records. It would be very helpful to listen into. It's Akashic Records 101. It was quite a while back, so making sure to look that one up because I think that'll fill in a lot of the gaps and questions that might come up if this is new for you. All right, the other thing that I want to mention before we dive into our reading is that doors are still open for the Feed Your Wild Voice program. Activate your inner voice and speak your authentic truth. Yes, as a clear channel. In this program, we are going to cover how to find and trust your inner voice. We're going to map all the different ways and lenses of looking at your story in connection to your voice. We get into anatomy and physiology, the development from embryology to psychosocial development of one's voice. We'll also be looking at mapping out your unique design with your voice. So we'll be using and looking at tools such as astrology and human design and a multicultural lens of this very important center. Through this program, you're going to learn how to dissolve blocks in your throat chakra to gain clarity and get out of your own ways so you can be a clear channel, communicate effectively, and speak your authentic truth. I'll provide teachings on common energetic and spiritual blocks, physical manifestations linked to voice imbalances. So yes, we're going to be looking at the thyroid issues, tonsils and lymph and other areas that are very common to see health challenges. And of course, remedies, plant allies, food as medicine to feed your wild voice, and tools and practices to tend to this critical center of creation and manifestation. Who is this program for? Well, if you're a wild-hearted helper, healer, creative, change maker, someone who is here to be in service in some way, to share your truth, but maybe you're having some challenges doing so. If you're experiencing some struggle with connecting with or expressing your inner voice and truth, or you have throat-related issues, any of the above that I had mentioned, or really anyone seeking to support the health of this really important center, this is for you. I created this program that was built as an expanded form from a previous workshop that I did, which was a shorter workshop. It was really potent, it was really popular, and it was very clear that many of you are struggling with this connection or really being able to connect with and fully express your inner voice. I believe that now is the time, the pivotal time to connect with your inner voice, to connect with your truth, and to build discernment, because let's be honest, there is a lot of information in circulation out there. There's a lot of back and forth with fighting and disagreements and various messaging and flip-flopping, there's also a real resurgence here of the voices that have been suppressed. It's so critical that these very important voices that have been denigrated and suppressed for so long are finally expressed and heard today, because this is what we truly need to create that more beautiful world that I know you desire in your heart for yourself, your family, your community, for future generations, for Mama Earth. We all need your voice to sing together with all of us in this beautiful choir, this symphony of diverse voices, so that we can make some real change. So that's my why. I share a lot in previous episodes and also over on my Instagram at Wildly Rooted, and I'll be sharing more in the program. But my personal journey with my voice in many different ways, inner voice, my throat chakra, many health challenges, dealing with my throat chakra, how I have navigated through all of them, how I'm still challenged in dealing with a lot of it. But I basically created this program for the me 15 years ago when I didn't know what the heck was going on. I just knew that I was feeling so stuck, so out of alignment, unable to even connect in with my truth and who I was. It was so hard for me to do very simple things like make decisions or tell people what I actually wanted. Communication was very challenging, and honestly, I felt disconnected. And once I really started to dive in and get curious about this center and really open up to look at the shadows, the baggage that I was carrying in this area, it was life-changing. It not only supported a lot of the healing on a physical level, but it also helped me to really discover who I was and what did I believe in and what was my truth, and to create and manifest in a way that was super aligned, and then to connect with my inner voice in a way that was radically different than before and really powerful as part of the expansion of my own intuition. So I'll talk a little bit more about that process at the end of this episode, but I want you to know that the doors will be closing. I have pushed back the date because of some personal stuff that came up, health issues that impacted my family members, and some really needed time and space to support them and to support myself. So in honoring that, I was able to push back the date of the doors closing on this program. So you have more time to join, and the doors will be closing on June 7th. So if this sounds interesting to you, if you want to learn more, then please go to wildlyrooted.com/feed your wild voice. You can send me an email at hello@wildlyrooted.com if you have questions. You can also find me on Instagram at wildlyrooted. So check out those spaces. If you have any questions at all, feel free to connect and ask, and I'd be happy to help out. I'm so excited for those of you who already said yes, and for those who are interested or will be saying yes. I look forward to connecting with you on the other side. All right, so let's get into this Akashic reading for June. The buzzing inside the cavernous spaces of a wild beehive, riding on the back of a bee, going into the depths of the structures created from elementals of the self, literal fluids of the body, and the force of a collective holding of a vision, a reality. To do so with complete faith would not be describing the sentiment and consciousness that created this hive accurately. It is more like connecting to the reality that already is and allowing it to show you the way forward. That is what the bees do. There is no future or past, only creation of what is. The bees have a lot to teach. They weave through different energetic planes of reality, of consciousness, and bring with them, embedded in the pockets of pollen, the essence, the resonance of worlds unknown to you. They do this as their gift, as divine messengers, carriers for the earth, whisperers of the world to come. They are a major part of the great shift, which has many names. You see, there are many players, not just humans, and each role plays an important part in the evolution, the shaping of this reality. The great threat to this is the forgetting. This forgetting has been both deliberate and a consequence. There is no time for blaming now, though. The focus must be in the remembering. The bees can assist you with this too. Have you ever sat with bee and watched them embody their purpose? Have you felt the unwavering knowing of their work and play? Have you heard their songs and watched their dances? Now let's talk about the butterflies. The butterflies are also part of what you can call the elemental realms, nether regions of reality, birthed of this earth and rebirthed into a different energetic plane. They are energetic beings, respond to vibration, and appear when the subtle vibrations in an area are less disturbed. This is why they can often come with those that have crossed over, be sent as messengers, and often appear quite literally out of thin air. Butterflies have reminded humanity for many years that we are merely a blink away from the heavens, from beauty, from love. They are also one of the many creatures that may serve to remind humanity of their own evolution, their awakening process. Let us tell you a story. The journey of the juniper branch from the tops of the mountain to the claws of the eagle, dropping from the sky. Juniper berry branch falls into the river, where it is taken on a journey through the valleys and into a bank where the forest meets the coast. A young girl finds the branch and takes it back to her clan. Grandfather declares the prophecy has begun and salvation would be brought to the people. This is a true story. What does this story entail? The magical protection of juniper, the divine participation of the natural world in the unfolding of this event, the vision and deep trust of the people that allowed them to bear witness to and acknowledge when Spirit was at work. Spirit works through the natural world in omniscopic ways, and if you pay attention enough, learn the subtle language of the natural world, and trust, you will receive far more insight and knowledge than any book, app, wiki, course, or person can give you. These are the ways of natural law, and it is your divine right and ability as an earth walker to access this consciousness and way of being. Amidst times of great shifts such as these, the answers to your cries, the unfathomable solutions, the hope for your despair are being delivered through these ancient channels right now. Your participation is required. Attune yourself and remember. The time of remembrance is upon us. It has already begun. And if you find yourself struggling to connect to this way of communing, listening, living, simply lay your attention upon the bees and the butterflies, the birds and the trees, the rivers and the fish, the blossoms and the breeze. Go out today. What messages do you receive? And that was our message for June. So, as you can see in this short but sweet and very clear message that we received for June, there is an invitation for us to begin to remember of communing with the natural world, and not just in a mundane way, but in a way that is really part of our design, being able to commune with the subtle realms through nature. And after I received this, that's when they spoke of the importance of channeling or connecting in with one's ability to channel. And, I feel like this is a topic, while I'm very comfortable with it, I know that not everyone is. There's a lot of taboo around channeling. There's a lot of misunderstanding. And quite frankly, like even within my own life, some family or friends, I don't really talk about this or what it is that I do. And that's okay. It's not for everybody. And it's not about being shameful around this work, but you don't have to justify or explain yourself away, right? So I put together some of my thoughts in connecting with my guides to see which ones are really important to convey. But I do want to share that I have, in part of a module in the program, Feed Your Wild Voice, we talk about channeling and we talk about how to become a clear channel. So we go much deeper into this. But today I really want to share some of the fundamental principles and things that are really important in considering what even is channeling, but also if you are interested in connecting with your ability to channel, the things to really consider and incorporate. So as I said, there are many ways to channel. It's a very natural process, and it's actually very prevalent and common. For example, channeling inspiration in words for a book or a poem or a blog, in the creation of art, music, song, channeling through the making of things, especially for those with the gift of touch, and creating with your hands. Also cooking as an example of that. There's also energetic channeling. So many body workers and dancers and birthers, anybody who has literally given birth. What a huge channel you are being in that moment. So there are many different ways to relate to and view what channeling really is. My rough and very short definition is that it is the art of communing with divine energy. It may not come in as an actual voice. And I think that there are a lot of misconceptions when you start talking about channeling. And very often one can think of, oh, well, stereotypically, it's that person who calls himself a psychic and is in a trance state and channeling in some other voice, and they kind of go somewhere else and maybe they're hearing a different voice. So I just want to say that when I'm talking about channeling, that's definitely under the larger umbrella of what I view channeling to be. And that it's actually not that common for people to hear actual voices and to receive that. So I just want to put that out there. Some folks definitely have their proclivities and their gifts that in their design that they came here with. So, for example, you can have a certain pattern in the way that your brain operates and the waves of your brain. You can also have your unique design that allows you to channel very easily in a very specific way. You may have specific gifts. So some people are really great, as I mentioned, in energetic channeling through the body. So they could be really great as body workers and touch. Others are great orators, storytellers, poets. There's others that move with the body and dance. So again, there are many different ways that you might not even have considered it being channeling prior to this. There's also proclivities that have to do with past life experiences, ancestral and cultural connection, and conditioning. So there's a lot here that we can look at and what makes channeling a unique experience and the way that they channel different for each person, if that makes sense. So in getting into some of the fundamentals, I just want to again iterate that these are really from my own personal experience as well as teachings that I have received from mentors who also channel, who are intuitives, and who I've worked with myself, both as a student and a receiver of their messages. So the first thing that I think is really critical, and this is actually foundational as it relates to really understanding who you are and getting to know the you that is beyond the other voices and conditionings in your environment. And that is, you need to create the space and time in many different ways to connect, meditate, and attune. Needing to quiet the mind and allowing your brain waves to go into these different states is quite important in this process of channeling. Many people do this when they're in a flow state, right? And so a lot of times if you're exercising or working and gardening, or, like this happens a lot with running, or if you're doing artwork and painting or dancing, you might get into that flow state. Well, your mind is quieted in that moment, and that's a kind of meditation or attunement. Your brain is allowed to shut off certain centers and activate and open up others. And so your brain waves can shift. This is part of what I call attunement to the subtle realms. This is very often when we go into that hypnagogic or hypnotic state when driving for long periods of time or in the shower. And those are very often the times when we receive the answers, we receive the insight and inspiration, right? So it's important that you incorporate a practice of doing so on a regular basis. And one of the ways is to incorporate meditation in whatever way works for you. It's really just about creating that space that you can quiet your mind and attune yourself to different frequencies. And in this process, you learn to allow your personality, or you can say your ego self, to sort of not necessarily even go away, but maybe dissipate, dissolve a little bit, or move aside, get into the back seat, so that it is no longer the driver of your thoughts, because it's no longer about thinking thoughts, and it's more about connecting to your essential self, the real you, who you actually are, which is much bigger than your ego or your personality. So the more that you're able to do this and connect with that aspect of yourself and quiet the mind and shift brain states, the easier it will be to connect in with your inner voice and to receive inspiration and information and messages through channeling. In this process, there's also an openness that is required, a level of openness to both letting go and receiving. In other words, you could say a kind of surrendering to this process. And that can be scary. There's a lot of things that we might fear, that we might hold, and also beliefs around our ability to even channel. You might say, who the heck am I to think that I can channel? Or there's no way that I can do this. Only super psychic people can channel, right? We have these stories, and I just want to invite you to stay open and curious, and both let go of the stories, but also let go of control. And we want to do so in a way that doesn't put you into a completely vulnerable position. There are some levels of protection, for example, when you start to work in the subtle realms that are necessary. But what I'm talking about is you want to let go of control that's by your ego. The control in your body that's saying, no, I can't do this, right? It's kind of like when you want to send something down a pipe drain, but if it's clogged, if it's like pinched, let's say the garden hose, and you want the water to come through, if there's a kink or a pinch or something in it, then it's not going to flow. So we really need to kind of loosen that up, let go in whatever way is right for you, and then be open to receive messages, insight, words, maybe even nothing. Or maybe it's just a feeling or a sensation. So letting go of the outcome, the attachments to the outcome, or of what the process needs to feel like, or what you need to receive, the answers that you're seeking at the end of this, we need to let go of all of those attachments and really surrender to the moment, to yourself, and to being of service. And in whatever way that you have a connection to source, God, spirit, realms, all the different ways that you can relate to the subtle vibrations and subtle realms that we cannot see in this earth body, we want to surrender to the fact that, we may not understand that world or what it is that we're doing exactly, and that's okay. But if you show up with a full heart and ready to be of service, maybe to yourself, maybe to the will of spirit or God, maybe to your family or your community, it's that level of love and commitment that I think really helps to attune one to these subtle realms and receive. And of course, everything that I'm talking about here really requires trust. And so there's definitely a process of trust building when you are doing any kind of intuitive work. And that really just takes time. It takes time, experience, and it brings me to this next point of doing your work with a capital W. So tending to your wounds, tending to your pain body, tending to the baggage. Be willing to heal and without attachment to what that actually looks like, right? So without attachment to a so-called cure or a final outcome, but really seeing healing as a process of becoming whole again, connecting with all parts of yourself and your truth. The process of becoming a clear channel and clear within one's own consciousness in order to be able to do so, we can refer to that as a process of purification. This is a sacred process. This is part of doing your work and really looking at what is in the way, what has been in the way of me connecting to my inner voice, to my intuition, and to spirit, source, God, cosmic beings, spirit guides, elemental realms, whomever, whatever it is that you want to connect with. This process of purification, it's very connected to the throat chakra, and we talk about this in the Feed Your Wild Voice program, but the Vishuddha, the fifth chakra, throat chakra, is directly connected to purification. And I think this is really important because it's speaking to purification on a lot of different levels here. And in order for truth to be spoken, there has to be a clear filter. There has to be this process, this sacred process that frees a person from karmic and emotional residues of negative energy that might impede this free flow of information and light and love through one's consciousness and through your throat chakra. So, this process of purification and doing your work and be willing to heal is foundational. It is so important. And that's what makes this really freaking hard. And this is also not to say that, there aren't people that have these really powerful gifts of connection and channeling, like since they were kids, right? There are just some people who are born with certain designs where they have these gifts. But what I have seen and what I have experienced is that even with those folks, they can strengthen their connection and understand and channel in a safer way and connect to love in that process when they can really work on themselves and work through the shadows, tend to their wounds and to their pain body. Of course, that kind of work is never really done, right? You're not like, oh, I'm totally purified and I'm clean and I'm perfect. And, that's basically enlightenment. And then you probably wouldn't be here anymore. So I'm not talking about needing to complete this work and feel like you're totally purified before you can even think about channeling. But really seeing your relationship to your inner voice, intuition, and channeling as part of the work and showing you where you might need to focus your attention. And of course, in the different seasons of our life, over the many different years and experiences we might have, we're going to work on different things at different times. I have seen examples of people perhaps carrying unconscious motivations that we can say are less than, quote, pure, and how that impacts not only the quality of the energy that's coming through that they're channeling, but it can also create a distortion in the messages that are coming through for whomever the message is meant for. This is something where you also have to build discernment. Like if you're going to somebody for intuitive guidance, it would be wise to check in on how you feel when you read or listen to the guidance. What kind of energy does it carry? What are the intuitive hits that you're receiving? Now, this is different than maybe hearing something that you don't want to hear because, your ego, your personality or whatever, like you don't want to hear something. That doesn't mean that it's not true, right? But what I'm talking about here is really discerning the truth through the energetic signature of the message that's coming through. Does it carry the energy of love? That's a really great question to ask yourself when you are both channeling, being the channel, and when you are receiving information through another channel. Does it carry the energy of love? If you feel like, no, it does not, then I really encourage you to connect in with, well, what elements of the message did resonate and did feel like it carried love? And then you can really leave the rest. So just because someone says that they can channel or they're a channeler doesn't mean that you need to place all of your faith and belief in what it is that they are sharing. We cannot give away our autonomy, our sovereignty with that. That is the whole point. And that is my personal and utmost belief, is that number one, you have to have a very strong connection to yourself and your truth and your inner voice so that you can discern. There is so much more on this topic, but that's where I will end. I think that there's a lot already to chew on and to really start to work with. So I encourage you to check in on these various elements that I mentioned. And if you are interested in connecting with your ability to channel, then I would highly recommend creating that space to meditate, get in flow, attune yourself, be prepared to let go of attachments, surrender, stay open and curious, and do your work, which is a constant process. And it doesn't always have to feel like drudgery, right? And there's definitely rest periods. So enjoy the process as much as possible. But channeling, intuitive guidance, is really at its core essence intended to support spiritual upliftment and to bring love and healing into this space and into the hearts of those receiving messages. It is not meant to replace your own relationship with yourself, with your inner voice, with your spiritual path, with spirit, God, source, beyond. Instead, it's really here to support that, to be an aid along the way. I'd love to hear your insights and your experiences with channeling and also your questions. So if you want to reach out about this, if you want to learn more, if this topic is interesting to you and you would like to hear more about this on the podcast, then please let me know. That's the only way that I actually know to continue to talk about these things or incorporate it into the teachings and programs, is when you reach out and you let me know. I gave you all the channels to do so. So I look forward, and I would love to hear your experience and your questions on channeling. And again, if you want to learn more about this, go even deeper and begin to practice, we do cover this in the Feed Your Wild Voice program as well. So I hope to see you there. Doors close June 7th. Click that link to learn more, wildlyrooted.com/Feed Your Wild Voice. All right, familia, I hope you have a beautiful start of this June month and sending you so many blessings as you go outside and connect with the messages waiting for you. Hey there, I made something for you. One of the biggest challenges that I hear from people is that they are feeling stuck when it comes to their health. You're a smart, capable, and creative change maker, right? And you know what you should be doing for your health. So what gives? Well, it's not about willpower. And I wanted to create something that would help you to unlearn the things that are keeping you stuck so that you can get out of your own way and master the mindset of health. That's why I created Wildly Unstuck, where you'll learn the top 5 things that I have found to sabotage your health goals and what to do about them. You'll learn what it really takes to become committed and unstoppable when it comes to your health goals, and find the clarity you've been looking for so you know exactly what to do to get back into alignment. And I made it totally free. So if this is something that you want to dive into and create a vision and soul goals for your health and your life and bring your gifts to the world, because we know that we need it, then I invite you to join us in Wildly Unstuck. You can find that at wildlyrooted.com/unstuck. I'll see you on the other side.